Everyone. It's going to be hard to be as exciting as Jack after his presentation. So it's going to be, I guess, a little bit boring for you. However, I think, the presentation is about a very important project which the agency has been working on since September last year. So just very briefly, Project MADRID, and if anyone wants to understand what MADRID stands for, we should speak with Vladimir, because I'm still not sure what MADRID stands for. However, just very briefly about the background and the objective of this project. So, the agency launched an ITP last year in April, and we, Analysys Mason, so maybe just a couple of words for the people who doesn't know Analysys Mason. We are a consulting firm specialized in the TMT sector. We have something like 14 offices worldwide with 250 consultants. We were working with the agency on this project, and the agency had some question which trying to answer, and mainly the agency wanted to see what could be done or what measures or actions could be taken on the market to boost two things. First of all, to encourage competition and to develop broadband, in particular high-speed broadband penetration in the country. And the second point is how we can encourage rollout of next generation broadband to be able to tackle all this shifting to fourth revolution and fifth revolution. So the aim of this project was really to try to understand the current situation of the market, to see how this market evolves, and try to analyze quantitatively what potential measures or actions could be taken to boost this market going forward. Very quickly, because it's very important to understand how this project and model was developed and how the presentation is settled. So first of all, we sit down with the agency, we sit down with the operators, we collected information, and we try to understand and to capture the market. Then we had to take a view on how this market will evolve in the next 10 years. A view on the demand side and a view on the supply side. So demand side is mainly about customers, prices. Supply side is mainly about rollout of technologies, of infrastructures. To do this, we have worked on we have built an econometric tool analysis where we looked at something around 40 countries over 10 years with 15 or 20 variables, and we have built an econometric analysis which on this basis provided us a base case or an evolution of the market and how we see it. We have also built a supply side analysis, and I will get back to this later. And then we had a base case. So the next step was to identify, based on best practices, on benchmarks, what potential measures could be implemented in this market, and what are the impact quantitatively of these measures on the market. So therefore, we have defined a set of measures, and this set of measures had some impacts on some variables of our base case main model. And we could see the impact of each measure if it's applied on the market. What would be the benefits of applying this measure? I will just start by providing some high-level overview of our base case on how we see the market evolving in Macedonia compared to other markets in the world. You should bear in mind that we did this project, we started this project in September 2014. We delivered a draft report last month, and it was published last week for consultation on the agency website. So we were working with historicals up to mid-2014, and after that it was mainly some forecast. So just regarding broadband as a whole, in Macedonia, broadband penetration was something around 56% penetration, end of 2013, and we expect the growth to continue and to grow to something like around 76% in the next 10 years. If if we look at how Macedonia sits in Europe, it's currently at the lower end of benchmark in terms of fixed broadband penetration, and significantly below Western European countries. And there is lots of reasons behind that, and mainly we should not forget about economic, macroeconomic is also a big, an important factor for the development of broadband in a country. Something that we looked at also, as I said, we have done an econometric analysis, and we had to find some variables and some correlations between different parameters and different things which could explain how internet could evolve in the future and what are some impacting factors. So we have looked at one variable, which is the number of people who have never used internet. So never used internet, and we have seen that the proportion in Macedonia is very high. It's something like 1/3 of the population have never used internet in 2014. And we expect, I mean, how the historical evolution and how things are going forward. We expect that this trend will decrease, and then in 10 years we would only have 20% of the people that have never used internet in Macedonia. However, 20% is still a high percentage compared to the current situation of most European countries or Western European countries. Another important factor is about the internet skills. There is also one parameter which is published by the European Commission about internet skills in a country, where it provides 6 basic activities done by an internet user, and people who have internet skills should be able to do at least three activities out of these 6 activities. In Macedonia today, we have currently 60% of population who have medium. Sorry, we have currently 40% of population who have medium or high internet skills. So it's still at the bottom of the benchmark, but we expect this to grow to 60% in 10 years. So going further to high-speed fixed broadband. Speaking about high-speed, it's in line with the European Commission definition, so mainly above 30 megabit per second speed. And if we are looking at fixed, we are speaking about mainly fiber and about cable DOCSIS 3 technology. Currently, high-speed broadband in Macedonia is very low, just a few percentage penetration, and we expect this to increase to something like 36% of households. Penetration figures here in fixed, I'm talking about households, it's a bit different than what Vladimir mentioned earlier. And this is also due to operators rolling out fiber, FTTH mainly, and upgrading DOCSIS to DOCSIS 3 throughout the country. Again, a comparison with other European countries shows that high-speed broadband fixed penetration in Macedonia is very low, and we expect this to increase to the top of current situation in other countries. So, I mean, we see a big lag between high-speed broadband penetration in Macedonia and in most other countries in Europe. Just because it's also interesting to see how much this represents out of broadband subscribers. In 2013, there was only 5% of subscription using high-speed broadband in Macedonia, and we expect this to grow to something like 50%, 50% out of all broadband connections in Macedonia. So in 10 years, I mean, based on econometric analysis, we see that half of broadband subscribers will be using high-speed fixed broadband in Macedonia. Moving to mobile, because mobile is interesting also, and mobile is growing faster than fixed. We have also looked at the mobile broadband market. Just to be clear about the definition of mobile broadband market, it includes data cards, so data-only subscriptions, and it includes also people who are using their phone to access the internet and to use any data applications. Currently, at the end of 2014, almost half of the population were using mobile broadband using mainly their phones. We expect also this to increase and to reach something around 90-95% of population by 2023. Again, compared to other European countries, mobile broadband penetration is at the low bottom of the benchmark. But with the increase, we see that by 10 years it should catch up with most of the European countries. The other aspect also which is important is penetration is also linked to the price that people and to what we call average revenue per user. And this is also an important aspect to look at. Currently, if you look at the fixed broadband ARPU, Macedonia has very low prices, something around €11 on average. A fixed broadband ARPU or a subscriber pays €11 per month. This is excluding VAT, of course, to get a fixed broadband connection. We see that trend to stay almost flat, even to increase slightly, and it's mainly becoming out of more and more users shifting from basic broadband to fast broadband. Currently, there is a premium of something around 40% between the prices of basic broadband and the high-speed broadband. Of course, this premium would decrease over time. However, the shift from subscriber-based to high-speed broadband will make a very slight ARPU increase over time. In any case, we are still in the same range, something around 12 euros. What is more interesting is to look what we call affordability analysis. Affordability analysis is just give us something like what people have purchase power parity, what people have consumption, private consumption, how much people do consume, and what this share of broadband consumption represent out of the money out of their pocket. And so currently, if we look at Macedonia, so based on private consumption, the fixed broadband ARPU share is something around 1.5%. It is high compared to other countries. However, with the increase in GDP over the next 10 years, and the price being mainly flat, this consumption should decrease as a share of private, the fixed broadband ARPU should decrease as a share of private consumption to around 1%. And this is in line on how we see the evolution in other markets. People are getting more and more, people are having more and more money. ARPUs are usually flat. To some exceptions, there are some exceptions, but ARPU are usually flat or decreases, and then the share of the wallet is lower, and therefore that's why we can reach more and more people in the country, and penetration increases. Looking at the mobile side, we have looked at mobile ARPU and mobile data only ARPU also, and we accept that we are already at a very low prices in Macedonia, around 6 euros. And we expect that this ARPU stay flat over time. Looking at, again, the same reasoning at an affordability analysis as a share of private consumption per capita, we can see also that 2014 mobile prices represent something like 2% of private consumption in Macedonia, and we believe that this will still, with our flat ARPU, this will decrease to something like 1% out of private consumption in Macedonia. Okay, this was what we call the market demand side. Now I would want to go back to our base case in the market supply side. So, of course, if you want to have more high-speed broadband subscribers, you need to roll out technology, you need to roll out infrastructures. And we have looked at three main technologies. that could be rolled out in Macedonia, fiber to the home, FTTH, cable DOCSIS 3.0, and LTE 4G mobile broadband. And we have done some assessments, so let me just go quickly through this. The situation currently is that there are several technologies in Macedonia. Broadband almost cover the whole population, low-speed broadband or basic, or what we call basic broadband. For example, ADSL covers more than 98% of the population. So coverage with basic broadband is all, it's there between ADSL, between fixed wireless access, or even 3G, HSPA+. There is more than between 90 and 99% coverage of the population. High-speed broadband, we have FTTH, which is currently rolled out by the incumbent operator, and we have something between 15 and 20% coverage by end of 2014. We have also LTE, which is being rolled out very fast, and depending on the mobile operator, we have more than 40% coverage of the population in the country currently, or at the start of the year. And then you have the cable, where the cable footprint is almost half of the country population, but mainly on DOCSIS 2.0. There is a very tiny proportion of DOCSIS 3.0 rollouts currently. So what we see is that, and the trend is that operators will move on more and more to roll out high-speed broadband technologies, while the basic broadband is still there. Coverage will not increase, and at some stage maybe there will be shutdown of some of these basic broadband networks. So what is also interesting is we are in a situation, let's say in a base case, where operators will only roll out technologies if they have, and somebody mentioned this morning, if they have some return on investment. If there is no specific measure or specific obligations, operator will only roll out networks to the extent that they are getting some return on investment, which makes sense. And so what we are trying to understand is that without any potential measure, where do we think within the next few years, 10 years, to what extent operators will roll out this new next generation network. So to do that, we have worked on a municipality level. We have calculated the subscriber base, the revenues that an operator would be able to get from rolling out a high-speed broadband in a specific municipality, and we have worked on the calculation of the costs required to roll out this infrastructure in a specific municipality. And most of the costs are related to access and last mile and backhaul networks. And by doing this, we calculate an NPV, a net present value, over the period. If the net present value is positive, then we can say, okay, there is a commercial case for an operator to roll out a specific network in this municipality. If the net present value is negative, then there is no real case or economic case for an operator to roll out and a specific network. And this is what we refer to as commercial viable. So by doing that, we can on each municipality understand if there is a viability or not for an operator to roll out, for example, FTTH. And then by looking at the whole country, we can just check to which percentage of population an operator would be willing to roll out this specific technology. And what I want to show you is very briefly the results of our analysis. So as I mentioned, we looked at 3 high-speed broadband technologies, and we did on a municipality level an NPV, a net present value on each municipality. And what the municipality given positive NPV, this should be, there is a case for operators to roll out this network. Where NPV is negative, there is no case. Looking at FTTH, for example, we believe that there is something around 45% of the households, there is a commercial viability for an operator to roll out FTTH network in this area. Meaning there is 50 plus 55% population where we don't believe it's economically feasible at this stage is the current view for an operator to roll out FTTH. We have done also this exercise on LTE. On LTE, as you can imagine, the proportion is much higher, and we believe that there is 94% of the population which could be viably covered by operators in Macedonia. The main difference between LTE and fiber, first of all, fiber is a very intensive capex requirement, as to LTE, where most of the operators will be able to reuse their existing base stations and roll out LTE on their existing 2G, 3G network, which is already has a very wide coverage in the country. And also, when looking at the cable footprint, we have also seen that we believe that there is a viability for operators to upgrade from DOCSIS 2.0 to DOCSIS 3.0 in the whole footprint of their existing network. We have estimated something like, including cable and including some operators using LAN, something like around 51% of the population or of the households could be also rolled out in DOCSIS 3. Of course, there are overlaps between technology, but looking at next generation fixed network, we think that commercially it could go to 50%, and looking at mobile, it could go to 94%. Just going back to what I was presenting before, I mean, this level of this chart shows you that for each technology, whenever you want to cover more, the incremental cost for covering an additional household would be higher. And you can see, whatever is the technology, that it is always the last 5 or 10% of the population which has a much higher cost for rolling out the technology, and that is the main bottleneck. The last 10% of the population will be always difficult to cover, as it requires extreme high cost to cover with very low density when you go to this population. Okay. So after we have done all this analysis, the econometric analysis and the economic viability analysis for the supply side and for the demand side, we said, okay, the next step would be to look at what could we do on the market, what are the best practices, how can we make this market grow more than what is expected. And first of all, we identified measures. So we have identified tens or even hundreds of measures which have been implemented or even just put in some national broadband plans of other governments, mainly in Europe, and we have found 4 main categories. First of all, there are some measures which deal with supply side and measures which deal with demand side. The measures on supply side, they either go to infrastructures and networks, which meaning some measures to have an impact on the rollout of networks, and some other measures mainly on the broadband wholesale offers. So you don't need to roll out networks, but you identify some measure to make like operators be able to access and to have offers from 1 or 2 other operators rolling out infrastructures. And on the demand side, you can split also the potential measures in 2 broad categories. One is about increasing the awareness of broadband, why you should use broadband or why you should use high-speed broadband, what are the benefits that you can get, so make the population understand about the benefits of this, and have trust in, for example, buying over the internet, because some people do not have trust, so all this type of information. And the second type of demand side is mainly related to content and services. So people will use internet or will see that they need to use high-speed broadband if there are some contents, if there are some services, some local content, some services that require like video services that require high bandwidth, so they can see the benefits of, for example, moving to high-speed bandwidth connection. But you can see on the slide some some example or some type of measures which were taken or which were implemented or in other countries or which were mentioned in National Broadband Plan. On the supply side, there is a lot about sharing telecom infrastructures, co-deployment, co-investments, all this to boost the development of high-speed broadband, fixed high-speed broadband infrastructures. Access to non-telecom infrastructures also, this is very important because when rolling out fiber, digging is a major cost for operators. On the mobile side, you can see lots of things like spectrum assignment, providing more and more spectrum to operators so they can provide higher speed broadband services without the need to roll out lots of sites for capacity crunch, spectrum trading, potentially some coverage obligations. Also, we have seen lots of licenses or spectrum being assigned with some coverage obligation to boost specifically the rollout in rural area or what we call white areas. There are also some measures on the wholesale markets, like for example, regulation of wholesale broadband offers and NGN broadband offers, auditing and improving operational conditions of midstream offers also. On the demand side, there are some measures specifically to increase, as I mentioned, the awareness of people, to increase the awareness, like for example, doing some marketing, promoting education towards ICT in schools mainly and broadband, and some financial incentives also. There was some fiscal subsidies or device subsidies that would allow people also to access to internet. And on the content and services, lots of studies have been done in the public sector to increase the usage of internet in the public sector through education, administration, or all these things. Encourage and support the creation of content, especially local contents, and improve the security and trust to stimulate the broadband use. So these are a small snapshot of the measures that we have seen implemented in different jurisdictions. Of course, implementing this type of measures could have a different impact on the market. When you are looking at the supply side, you are trying to increase coverage, to improve quality of the services, and as a result, when you improve coverage, you always have an increase in penetration. When you work on the demand side, it's mainly about increasing penetration and about stimulating usage. So there are different, each measure has some different objectives or different impacts that could have on the market. So we have, looking at all these measures, we have selected something like around 10 measures where we have identified what the parameters that these measures could have an impact on our modeling, and we have tested the impact of such measure. So for example, we say if there is a mobile network sharing, what could happen? Mobile network sharing could mean that operators will have to invest less to provide a service because they will split the cost of having a new site. And you can put this in the modeling and then see what would be the impact on the supply side or on the demand side. So we have identified several measures. Our focus was more on the supply side, so we wanted to understand what the agency or a governmental body could do to boost the market. However, it was also interesting to look at the demand side because we see also a bottleneck on the demand side, and it's also interesting to see what could be an impact of some measures on the demand side to boost also high-speed broadband. Okay. I will go briefly through each measure with just providing some impact and how we have tested and what impact we have seen on the results of our study. So mobile network sharing, as I mentioned, we believe that LTE has a viability of 94%. So when we say has a commercial viability of 94%, we believe that operator will roll out LTE to 94% of the population. but probably will not roll out 100% because I don't see any benefit for rolling out for the remaining 6%. If we use mobile network sharing, we would potentially boost this commercial viability, and we can see a benefit of rolling out to 99.5% of the population. The results of our model tell us if you use mobile network sharing, how do you use it? Do you impose it in the law, or this is a different story? But this type of measure would potentially allow operator to go to 99.5% measure and being viable on this 5% additional coverage population. Another supply-side measure is access to non-telecom infrastructures. This is very important for the rollout of fiber, for example. If you can access, instead of digging, if you can access the ducts that are available from non-telecom infrastructures company, this will make life easier to operators to roll out. If you remember, I said something like 44% of population is commercially viable with rolling out LTE. We have tested by enabling access to non-telecom infrastructures, and we believe this would increase something by 4 to 5% the viability of coverage. So we can reach, just for FTTH, we can reach 50%, something like 48% by doing that. And by increasing the coverage of FTTH also, we will have an impact of competition, and then this will stimulate also an additional penetration of high-speed fixed broadband. And you can see in the long term, we will see a market that will grow by 15% more than what we are seeing today. So, for example, if we have said in the base case that we see 50% high-speed fixed broadband penetration in 10 years, by implementing this measure, we believe that the 50% will become something like 50% plus 15% of the 50%, so it becomes something like 57 or 58% in the long term. Some other very high-level measures with some qualitative is about spectrum assignments. We understand that currently in Macedonia, the 800 megahertz is assigned to operators. They are also able to use potentially 1800 for LTE. In the short term, what could really be assigned is the 2.6 gigahertz. However, we didn't see in our modeling a very high capacity crunch. So assigning additional LTE spectrum, in our view, in the short to medium term, would not change the market structure, and the operator will still go to 94% coverage. The other important point is coverage obligation. We have seen also that some regulators have tried to impose some coverage obligation for LTE. Of course, you have to find out the legal, the legal behind imposing coverage obligation. Usually, it can be done through the assignment of new spectrum. Imposing coverage obligation potentially would allow LTE to be available to 100%, or depending on the coverage obligation, to 99.6 or 7%. Another supply-side measure which would be very interesting is mandating wholesale NGN access. I understand that there has been some decision maybe 1 month ago that has been published by the agency. So what we have done in short, by mandating wholesale NGN access, we will promote more and more competition, because some operators will not be able to roll out their own infrastructures, and in turn this will have an impact. This will have an impact on the evolution, on the take-up of high-speed broadband. Testing this measure, we see something like around 7 to 8% additional high-speed broadband subscribers in the long term with the enabling of these measures on the market. Moving to some demand-side measure. And demand-side measures are also very important. So, for example, some measure like undertaking public campaigns to promote digital economy and the use of internet, or supporting the creation of digital content of high value. I mean, by education, by promoting the use of internet and by promoting the use of high-speed broadband, what will happen is that usually you will decrease the number of people who have never used the internet. Because when there is something, when people are educated, they will try it. Once they will try it, they say, oh, okay, there is some benefits, and then they will say, okay, I want to get a broadband connection or a high-speed broadband connection because I'm today on a basic broadband connection. All these measures all these measures which would increase the number of internet users would have a significant impact on the high-speed broadband. And implementing such kind of measures in the long term would have an impact of an increase of 15% of subscribers using high-speed broadband. There will be an impact of subscribers using basic broadband, but the main impact we believe it will be on the high-speed broadband because most of the people who won't take basic subscribers broadband at the end of the plan is mainly due to some affordability analysis, it's the poorest population. So we believe pushing the benefits of high-speed broadband will make more and more people who have basic broadband to move for high-speed broadband subscribers. The same case can be mentioned about increasing the internet speed. Increasing the internet speed is about ensuring that people have the opportunities to use internet. So it starts at providing some education for youngsters, skills at kindergarten, or not kindergarten, but at school level, and also potentially setting up some access point for information for people who cannot really understand how to use the internet or the benefits of using the internet. This type of measures has also in the long term a benefit impact of 12 to 13% on the number of subscribers using high-speed broadband internet. Another interesting measure is providing subsidies, or what we call social tariffs. So we know that there are people who are poor, and this may be a barrier for them to get internet, or even to move from internet to high-speed broadband internet, because they can see some difference in prices. So what we have done is that we have looked at GDP per capita in the region in Macedonia. We have compiled this on the average, and we have tried to identify how much of population could be eligible for a social tariff. Of course, it depends where you put the cursor, but we believe that there is something around 13% of the population in Macedonia which could benefit from a social tariff. And providing this social tariff to them, of course, which means you have to lower the price, providing this social tariff could potentially boost again high-speed broadband by 4 to 5% in the long term. Another point which may be controversial, but it's also something which we have seen in some markets and which could boost the internet or the high-speed broadband, is about reducing VAT. We have done a small test, so to understand that VAT is currently 18%. If you say for media type of services, I will reduce my VAT to 5%, and you put it in the econometric tool, then you will see that this will benefit and will increase long-term penetration by 10%. So people will have to pay a bit less to get, or 10% less to get a broadband, and there are potentially people who will move to high-speed broadband, because if you reduce the high-speed broadband, then they will see a benefit for moving with the price lower to high-speed broadband. And we have seen something like 10%. Again, these are measures or actions. It's not about, we're not saying that it's good to implement this measure or not good. We have built a framework. We have tried to do some benchmarking exercise and try to see if a measure has an impact, what would be, how much would it impact the market. And, oops, sorry. Yes, and I wanted to go to my final slide, where I summarize, the main, or this 9 or 10 main measures, and where we try to assess them some measures have higher impact than others, and some measures are difficult to implement. So if someone would want to focus on some measures, we should look at the priority with the measures that have lowest difficulty of implementation. So of course VAT is very complicated to implement, it will go to the right. But for example, like mandating wholesale NGN access, it has already been done anyway. So it's something that could be implemented. And then you have the impact. So, coverage obligation and mandating wholesale NGN access could have a good impact and are not difficult to implement. Then you have some other long-term actions where the impact could be high, but the implementation is very difficult. And this is, for example, like increasing internet user, increasing internet skills, cutting VAT and access to non-telecom infrastructures. Then we look at some measures where we see a low impact but low difficulty. So it's quick wins, but they don't lower priority because we don't see a huge impact of benefiting from this. So it's like spectrum assignment in the midterm. And at the bottom, the measures which really do not have lots of impact and are very complicated to implement. Examples are mobile network sharing and subsidies or social tariffs to low-income citizens. Again, if you are interested more in going into more details, the report is published on the agency website, and there is a 30 days consultation, I believe, which ends mid-June, I think.